Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Life is too important to be taken seriously, so lighten up, folks." So today's topic is, I need more coffee, I think. Drumroll, please. Retail time, part 5. Yay! All right. So when we last left off, I had mentioned that I had just started working for Jean-Paul Gaultier Issey Miyake. We did the store rally, but I kind of like jumped the gun there. So picture it. I had been doing cosmetics fragrances as a makeup artist, but then I started freelancing in fragrances. So one of the companies that I started working for was Issey Miyake Jean-Paul Gaultier. But I went from like freelancing with all these other companies to then becoming their part-timer. So then I was working like 3 days a week, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, store hours. And then I was like still allowed to work the other days for other vendors if I wanted. But then I was like pretty much just doing that because then I was still doing my acting gigs here and there. Although at that point, you know, I it's you can be a little pigeonholed into like getting used to making money, like because when you work retail, I've said this before, when you work for the cosmetic and beauty industry, you're not paid by the store, and we're getting paid a lot. So it's very easy to fall into that trap where you get comfortable with it. And so for those years that I was with them, first I was the part-timer for a number of years, like 2 years, I guess, 2.5 years. And then I became the full-timer. So then I was working 5 days a week. And then my actual business manager, my boss, she ended up leaving and going to a different company. So then the opportunity came up for me to actually run the business. So I was with them a total of like maybe 4 or 5 years, 4 years, I think it was. And so it was like 2 years as part-time and then like 1 year as full-time. And then I worked my way up to business manager. And then I had a staff. Uh, it's so like being a manager in fragrances in particular or retail in particular, it's difficult because you're only as good as your last job or your last sale. So like in retail, they look at like this year versus last year, not realizing that like, okay, a year later, the whatever product you're representing is more saturated. It's available at more stores now. So then obviously, initially you make more money each year, but then you reach a point where then it starts to decrease. So we were sort of at that point, like the fragrance had already been out for a number of years, and towards the ending there of my stay as business manager, it was getting increasingly harder because then you get all this pressure, not only from the store, but from your account executive, your regional, from your company itself, where they expect you and your staff to make all these amazing figures. And the other thing that worked against any department store in New York City, frankly, is Macy's. Because of the location that they're in, they make a lot more money than any other store within the beauty industry. Also, you have Penn Station there. And if you look at any of the commercials on television where they are promoting any fragrance or any beauty or skincare line, they always focus on Macy's, available at Macy's. So then it was always like an uphill battle because right off the bat, you were competing against that. And not only that, but then, duty free. People could get it cheaper there. And then as time progressed, then suddenly, you can buy fragrances on Amazon or like skincare at like Costco or BJ's. So these companies, they sell out to cheaper entities, but then they expect you to like produce these major numbers in department stores where people would be paying full price. Ain't nobody trying to pay full price for shit. And then of course, you had certain things that you would say, like you say to the customer, because they would say to you, well, I could get it cheaper. Okay, well, you go get it there. But the thing is that the newest, the fresh product that would be made goes to department stores. And then these other entities get like the older shit. So it's not as fresh. Now, look, I don't know if that's true, but that's the shit I would say. And it kind of makes sense. If you're going to sell to like a cheaper entity that's going to then sell your product at a fraction of a price. Don't give them the new shit, give them the older stuff. So I don't know if that was actually the case, but that's what I would say. Uh, so it did reach a point where, like, after being with that company for 4 years, I was sort of like, I reached the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore because it's like, they loved you 1 minute, but a minute later they didn't. And I would think to myself, it's fucking fragrances. It's like bullshit that doesn't even smell good. And it's a luxury item. And, look, I don't know about you guys, but I watch my P's and Q's, and anyone who has bills or has overhead or family or mortgage payments or rent or what have you, that shit adds up. So to spend money on something that's really not a necessity, like fragrances, honey, I'd rather just take a shower, frankly. But so it did come to a point where I was like, this is wearing on my last good gay nerve. And honey, I was just down to the one as it was. So I I've always believed in like manifesting and like the whole power of like wanting to make things happen. So I remember I started saying we did that holiday season and like we did well, but they still weren't even happy because they wanted us to do even better. And I was like, that's it. So I was saying, come February 1st, I don't care what happens. I need to get out of here. I needed to leave the company. And at that point, I hadn't worked on a film or TV set for like a couple of years because I fell into this trap of like making this money, but such a catch-22 because you're making money, but I wasn't very happy there. So I kept saying that. And, I've always said, if you have good karma, and you want something to happen, you have to just like really think it. But where people fail is you just can't think it. You have to say the words out loud so that the universe can hear and give you what you want and deserve if you are deserving of it. So I kept saying those words out loud and I was like, come February 1st, I need out. I don't care if it's that I switch companies or I leave retail and like go to get back to acting, anything. And then sure enough, January 31st was when I got the phone call from the casting agent for Oz. And they were like, you want to be on this show? And it actually was that simple because what happened was the first season, I worked on the show, but not every episode, just isolated days here and there. So that 31st, he called me and he was like, they have a new formula for the show. So if you want to be in it, you'd be a member of the gay gang, specifically the resident tranny. So I said, oh, okay, but it was the kind of thing that like I had to make the decision on the spot because then the very next day was my fitting. And I remember the 31st that year was on a Thursday. So my fitting was that Friday and the first day on set would be that Monday. So I thought to myself, I said to the casting agent, please give me a minute. I know I'm going to say yes, but I'm about to have a heart attack. Because when he contacted me, I was at work. So I hung up the phone and I was like, ah. And I called 5 minutes later and I was like, book me. Now, my company, because they were so rude, they had in my contract created this hideous clause that said you can be fired with or without cause or notice. And at the same time, it said that I can quit with or without notice or reason. So then I called my account executive that nasty bitch. And I said, hey, that nasty clause you put in my contract? Guess what? I'm exercising it. And I quit. And it was great. Now, I did subsequently, go back to retail because, again, at that point, I was permanent with that company, but I knew I could always go back and freelance. So, in between seasons, I'd work here and there. And, and I ended up doing it for 25 years. But, anywho, but Miyake Gautier, the fragrances were nice. The company, as a general rule, they were nice to work with and they were good to me. They were just little bit of moments, and it was that last year because I was given a new account executive who was not very nice, and she was a queen also, but sometimes queens can be the worst, and this bitch was, but I showed her what's what. So, all right, guys, thumbs up, subscribe if you have not. As always, thank you for being here with me, and I love doing these videos, and I love you guys, and you can read all about it in my self-published memoirs, The Life and Crimes of Fiona St. James, and that's actually that was my mugshot on the show. That was on the set of Oz, and it became my cover. Even the font is called prison font. Who knew? And you can read all about everything that I talk about here. The book you can get at FionaSt.James.com. ST is not spelled out, no period after that. And so again, thanks for being here, and I will see you guys again. Love you.